Hey, good evening, everyone. This is State Representative Brad Halbrook coming to you with our Tuesday night edition of our live stream with a very important topic. And we're going to talk about HB 4412 that sets a statewide standard for wind and solar siting, statewide zoning. And so we're going to get into that in a little bit. But before we do that, I want to, and we have a special guest tonight also that we want to introduce here in just a few moments. But with that, I want to open it up, kind of run the table with Adam Niemerg. Adam, give us a welcome and an update on what's going on the gun legislation in your neighborhood.
Well, folks, thanks for tuning in with us here this evening. As you all know, there's been several court cases that have been filed against the unconstitutional gun grab, the so-called assault weapons ban that was filed by the Democrats and passed during lame duck. Here just a few weeks ago, last Friday, we had a hearing in Effingham, or actually last Wednesday, there was a hearing in Effingham, and a TRO issued Friday with Tom DeVore arguing that case on behalf of Accuracy Firearms, as well as about 856 plaintiffs. The TRO was issued on 4 complaints. The first one was a single issue name in a bill. So like many times we see a bill come to the floor and the actual title of the bill has nothing to do with what was passed. It's a gut and replace process that the Democrats use. And then also the 3 readings, that the 3 readings rule was violated. And essentially, folks, what the Democrats do is they'll have a bill that's over in the House or the Senate. They'll take that bill, they'll gut and replace it. Actually, this was an insurance bill that actually had my name on it. They gut and replaced it, ran it through the Senate, and I had to hurry to get my name off of it back in the House. So Tom argued that those two complaints violated the Constitution, and he did a very good job arguing that. But thirdly, he talked about due process and how the violation of the single name issue and also the 3 readings was a violation of due process for you, the folks in each one of our districts, because you were not able to be given the due process to review the legislation, and your representatives were not able to get due process to review the legislation. Lastly, he's most excited about this was equal protection. Why is one class ahead of another when it comes to the right to keep and bear arms, whether it be training, whether it be being a veteran, or whether it being some class of citizen? He argued that, as well as irreparable harm. All 4 were granted by the judge in Effingham County on Friday. Now, to go more into detail on that, we have another case that is pending that I said I'd see you in court, and I'm going to see him in court. I am a plaintiff. I am suing the governor, as well as Representative Blaine Wilhauer. Tomorrow morning, we'll be down in White County, ready for round 2 as plaintiffs in this lawsuit. So I'll kick it off to Blaine to talk more about that.
Hey, thanks, Adam. Thanks, Brad, and other guys. Thanks, Leon, for being here today. Yeah, governor needs to get his lunch packed because we're going to be down in White County tomorrow morning. I think Adam and I are going down there and representing this. So Adam did a good synopsis on what happened in Effingham. Basically, we're doing the same thing in White County. I think there's some 1,600 odd people that are on that. But, you know, even outside of the Second Amendment stuff, the things that we're arguing in this case are extremely important. The single subject stuff, the 3 reading stuff, the due process stuff, and the equal protection stuff. This needs this stuff out even outside the Second Amendment needs a hearing, because Democrats, they're supermajority in Springfield. They circumvent the process. They use these shady rule and name change stuff to basically try to deceive voters in the dead of night. And you know, if we continue to prevail on this stuff, it's going to change the way they do things in Springfield. It's going to force these people into more transparency and more checks and more balances. So that's really important. You know, so there's that one in state court, and there's also another filing in federal court, I think just today. The FFL dealers and Guns Save Lives and a couple other plaintiffs have filed in federal court. So they joined the State Rifle Association and, you know, several other entities on the federal side too. And we're just running a parallel track here. And I think that it's important on the state and the federal level. Ultimately, I think we're going to prevail on the federal level because the Bruin decision really changed everything. You know, when the state was making its arguments in Effingham the other day, they were citing some Supreme Court cases in the past, but all of that is pre-Bruin. So really excited about what's happening. Your rights are going to be restored because folks like the great patriots here from the Illinois Freedom Caucus are going to see to it. So Governor, get your lunch packed, buddy, because we're coming at you from every single angle here. We are going to restore the rule of law here in the state of Illinois. But just a real quick, this is a real important issue that we're dealing with today on the ordinances on the wind energy and everything that's going on. Really disappointed that the legislature has came back and really usurped a major amount of our rightful authorities here locally to regulate these things. And the governor just this last summer to the Farm Bureau, when he was pandering to everybody during the election season, said that he wouldn't sign something like this. So Brad says it's on his desk today. We'll see what happens. Is the governor going to keep his word or not?
Yeah, excellent update, guys. Now, a guy that always has these lunch packed because he's always in the pursuit of truth, logic, and common sense, the leader of the Illinois Freedom Caucus, Chris Miller. Chris, welcome.
Hey guys, it's great to be on here with all of you freedom-minded patriots. I know that y'all have heard me say this probably hundreds of times, probably more than what you ever even care to know, but the fight for freedom never ends, and we're in another battle. Shocking, isn't it? It's amazing that we're so surprised every time that JB tells a big old whopper once again, but there's one thing that he's consistent about. He has a real problem telling the truth. But I know that it's great to be on here today with you guys and Mr. Corzine to talk about these extremely important issues that are actually involving liberty, involving limited government, involving the rule of law, because we all know that those principles there are things that define us and make America America and allow us to live in freedom and in prosperity, regardless of how much tyranny the Dems want to lob at us. I know, and I really, really appreciate you guys always being willing to stand up, take the high ground, and do the right thing the right way all the time. So anyway, we're gonna have a great discussion this evening, and really looking forward to it. Thank you.
Excellent, Chris. And next up from Macon County, Dan Calkins, leading the charge there in kind of central Illinois for us. Dan, hopefully you've got a good connection there. And Dan, we'll give you the floor, kind of talk about what you're doing there on a legal battle on this gun issue. And then also, if you will introduce Lynn Corzine, our guest for this evening, that would be fantastic.
Thank you, Brad. Thank you all, my brothers here. We've taken up Tom DeVore's challenge, and we're going to lawsuit in Macon County in the state courts on Thursday, allowing anyone who wants to join our lawsuit to do so. They would mind helping us defray some of the legal expenses, but is expected or required to pay anything to be a part of our lawsuit. We've gotten a couple of people interested, 3 or 4, I think. People have signed. That's actually 300 or 400, by the way. We've got another day to go. We're going to have to cut this off tomorrow afternoon, so that our attorney Jerry Stocks can order. So we'll be following along with the Effingham and lawsuits, basically along the same lines, modifications, and we know that we've got a good judge that's going to stay. So we look forward to that, and I want to thank you all for your help. That the federal lawsuit suits have dropped today, more of them. Group that everybody needs to know that the Freedom Caucus has been behind. The FM, Gun Owners of America, several large right now have also been supportive. Your help, all have pitched in fflil.org, to help pay these legal funds. And, just know that the Illinois Freedom Caucus is every angle to protect your Second Amendment rights. And that's what you sent us tonight. We'll kind of break off here. We have with us a good friend. His family has farmed down in Assumption. I don't know. Did you land down there, Glenn, kind of set up your homestead, I think? But it's a great farming operation of family agriculture. Very, very good stewards of the land, and ecology, and some of the biggest champions of the farmers, because that's how they make a living, is off the land. And this mill bill is egregious. I mean, what you guys have been doing down there, and how this just usurps everything that you've worked on. So Lynn, welcome to the Freedom Caucus live stream Tuesday night town hall meeting.
Okay, thank you, Dan. Thank you for having me on. This is a very important issue that you folks are on it. You're on the one as far as on gun rights, but also this on 44. The long story short, it tramples on county boards, drainage districts, takes all of our authority away in regards to zoning. It's very, very hard. We worked for a year and a half of hearings and meetings to something that protects all landowners, and what we have in there, we have the safety and well-being of residents, but also in there so that if people want to participate, they can. If they don't want to have, but are willing to allow closer than what the setbacks in our statute are, and maybe participate in all the money that the wind companies are saying that you're, which is somewhat of falsehood in the first place. But there were 73 counties filed in opposition of this bill. We're trying to say that the counties will have 30, but it's hard to turn an hour strip the, and we're
Going to happen. They don't have shit for.
Hey, Lynn, we've lost your sound there momentarily.
Hey, Brad, this is Adam. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Hey, something about this particular bill. I know we lost Lynn here, but I was looking through it, and you're kind of an expert on this. You spoke to the bill on the floor. What, as a landowner and as somebody that owns just a little bit of property, and I've got farms all around me, do you know how this changes things? And could somebody put a windmill real close to my ground, or do you know how this all works?
Yeah, so it dramatically changes things, Adam, on the setbacks. There's about a dozen or 15 counties that have adopted some really stringent setbacks, and there's counties that have some fairly liberal setbacks. And what's interesting about that, and I'll get to your question momentarily, and hopefully Lynn's sound will regain back here. I'd like for him to weigh in on this also. But there were some counties that testified or had slipped in opposition to this bill that is willing to work with wind and solar installations. They have standards that are a little more lax or a little less standard than these statewide standards, and it puts them more in a tight spot. But you've got counties, I know, that I think a setback of around 3,250 feet to protect their neighbors. But these setbacks go off of a top blade tip height of like 1.1 to 2.1. And it depends on whether you're a participating landowner or a non-participating landowner. So you could have these facilities sitting just really a matter of a few 100 feet, 500-600 feet from a home or a business. The solar setbacks is even less, 150 feet from a non-participating structure, 50 feet from a road, 50 feet from a property line of a non-participating owner. So Adam, I hope that helps kind of answer that just a touch there. Lynn, I'm going to bring you back and see if you got some sound there. Is it better now, Lynn? Yeah. Not getting it there yet. You might. I'm not sure what's happening, Lynn. So the great thing about technology is you never know sometimes how it's all going to work out.
Well, Brad, also, something that was on my mind about this bill, a lot of people talked about it being a follow-up to CEJA, right? Because of the amount that we're subsidizing, the state of Illinois is subsidizing wind energy as it relates to CEJA when they're outlawing coal and natural gas, that a lot of folks said this was a follow-up to CEJA, from what I understood. And, that's the thing about the Democrats, folks, is if they run a bad bill, they get it through, they're going to look for more. So, that's why the Freedom Caucus always stays united against this. There was a bailout of the nuke plants that really had a lot of folks make some poor decisions on voting when it came to CEJA. And then you see these follow-up bills, and it's just whenever, something like this happens, whenever you get a bad bill, the Dems usually follow up with another. And as Brad said, now you're looking at 50 feet for solar to be off your property line. Now you're looking at a blade tip 400 or 500 feet from your house, and who knows how many they can put up as many as they want. So this is really getting out of control. Local control is just like with the governor, just like with all the mitigation standards, taken away from the people, taken away from the counties. So this is a very important issue.
Right, exactly, and. It was argued on Sunday night. Lynn, are you back?
I might be. Am I?
Yeah,
Yep.
There you go. So we were just talking about the setbacks. I don't know if you heard that discussion, but if you've got anything to add about the setbacks and how this is different than what is currently in some counties.
Well, we went with a strong setback. We had to see what was best. We wanted to allow so that if someone wanted to have wind, they could. It also protected those who did not. And a big thing that people forget is there's a waiver clause. People want to basically share the wealth, if you will, or don't mind, why they can sign a waiver if they like to. But where they have it now, I mean, you're putting homes, everything from ice throws to, there are fires at these things once in a while. Annuals that they try to not show you or not let you see, but annual for some of these generators, they have a 1,640-foot hard hatters. You've got to have a hard hat on. Well, that tells you something. So you're asking people to live within a hard hat, and it gets back to, that's why counties should be, when everything are there they are elected officials to be the authority, to be those to deter county of what is appropriate. In many counties, they because, for example, my town of Assumption is working on a development. If there are windmills put up there or solar farms put too close, that's a killer, because nobody wants to live where these windmills are. I liken it to, you're asking people to live inside generating factory, if you will, an industrial generating. Do that. Even businesses won't move forward within an area if those are there. So it's a development killer, and that needs to be brought out. Road commissioners, drainage really those associations need to get more engaged in this. I think they've been a little too passive, because from them too. And our farmland, which is the best farmland in the world, I've witnessed in central Illinois, and without drainage, it's most of that area is protections. That's why we have drainage districts and elected drainage commissioners, and they are government bodies because we collect taxes through our county's authority, and this bill strips all of that away. And people need to know that, because we're talking about generations that these are going to do harm. It's not just some people getting a few bucks now. It's about generations.
Yeah, exactly. Blaine, you touched on this a little bit earlier, and I think the thing that's really important here to discuss is how this strips out the local control. We have these elected township members, we have elected county board members, and it just strips out all their authority. Blaine, do you want to expand upon that at all? About any thoughts there on that?
Yeah, Brad, absolutely it does. I mean, this is a conversation that's been around for quite some time. This isn't brand new. It wasn't new to CJ. A lot of the local townships and county boards like Shelby County and Christian County, and a lot of those folks up there, like Mr. Corzine said, some of the best farm ground in the world. They've been going through this nuanced process for quite some time. They've been talking to stakeholders and, trying to do the right thing, do what's fair, so that people can exercise their own rights and their own authorities on their own land, and, with a little bit of common sense regulations from the counties. But they've just taken all of that work over, probably the last decade, really. These people like Mr. Corzine have been engaged on it and just stripped it away in one fell swoop. And the worst part about it is it's very disingenuous. I think it was just last year, or in the last couple of years, we were talking about this stuff in the legislature and actually giving the county some of the authority, or at least allowing them to do it. I mean, I think Brad could probably expound upon that a little bit more. But then, we do what they do in Springfield. When it becomes politically convenient, they just come in and, they've got the numbers, so they just change their mind. And, the governor really needs to be taken to task on this big time, because he knows that this is an issue that is huge for agriculture and landowners, who that's the biggest industry in the state of Illinois. And he made a declaration to them this summer in person that said that he wasn't going to do this. And I guess we're gonna see here in the next week or so if the governor's going to stand by his word. And we're also going to see what these groups like the Illinois Farm Bureau and some of these stakeholders are see what they're going to do about it if the governor goes back on his word. So it's just really ugly what's going on here.
If I may tag on to a little what you said as far as the farmability of the ground, we work really, that's been a buzzword in the public for, and they want us to be sustainable, and we are the right prescriptions so that we don't waste fertilizer, we don't use more than we need to. Same with our harvest. Everything that we do it in a more sustainable before. And when you put these structures in, it takes a lot of that away. It won't affect your GPS systems and your radio signals, but as we get more, it takes that away. So we will be less sustainable. We won't be as efficient, won't be as environmentally friendly wherever we would have to work around these. Another thing that is interesting, that signed up land for these signed contracts, over 90% was not signed by folks that live there and farm there. It was all who did not live in the area or on the land where they signed it up.
Yeah, a lot of absentee landowners. Landowners that are way downstream from the original owners of that land. They're just, maybe 2, 3, 4 generations from the original, and they may live anywhere in the country or the world, and they're not there having to look at that and deal with the issues that come up. So exactly right, Lynn. Yeah. So this, go ahead, Lynn.
Well, the process that you all get to deal with and work with, and I really, really appreciate youth is on. It's got to be extremely frustrating. It was to me when I testified, because I caught the WIN spokesperson that was at the time when I was at the hearing. She was not telling the truth, and I was able to point that out. And with Brad, I had find the paragraph that said who had the authority. Then and the counties are over this. And I read that to the committee, and I called her out, and I didn't want to call her a liar. I just said, this is false. It is not true. And they all voted for it anyway, and that's how it passed. And it was last minute. That's why I was the only one there. I was in my work clothes. People understood. I got over there. It was a little bit tough to get there, but this is important. This is about I was willing to let the cows wait a little while for some feed to get over to Springfield, and with why I got where I needed to be.
Yeah. Well, and you're right. You were the only property owner there. You're a fifth generation family farmer yourself. You farm with the sixth generation, and the seventh generation is nearby. And you were trying to bring some truth and some common sense to this debate, and they weren't having any of it. And you know what's interesting? HB 2988 that went through the chambers almost, I guess it'll be 3 years ago this spring, dealt with a local township situation in eastern Douglas County. I'm sorry to say there was Republican sponsors on that bill and Republican votes on that bill, but it came out, and you heard this in committee from one of the Republican members of the committee, that there was a commitment of the Democrats to allow the counties to make the decisions in this matter. And that testimony was offered up again, or that was brought out on the House floor debate, and they just chose to ignore that. So I just find that just kind of standard operating procedure in Springfield, the way the Democrats operate.
Yeah, this is, I don't want to be too harsh here, but, you know, the Democrat Party in Illinois, bought out by the abortionists. It's been bought out by the environmental and bought out by the gambling industry. It's been bought out by the cannabis industry. I don't know, you know, it's been bought out, you know, by these special interest lobbyists. I don't know who's left, but if something done in Illinois, just go up and buy a few politicians in Chicago, and it seems like these people have no morals. They do not honor their word. It's all about the almighty dollar, I guess, to them. You know, from where I sit, this destroying this. Stand up, and I mean that's one of the reasons that the Freedom Caucus is here. We're trying to bring these things to light, but this is Illinois politics at its worst, and we've seen a lot of that in the last 2 years, and these people have no shame about filling their coffers and getting jobs and whatever else that they can get out of this, and they don't. This is the corruption at the very root, and we just got to keep fighting, and people are going to have to stand up and vote against it. So, you know, Lynn, we really appreciate you and your family and what you do. You know, we'll continue to push and fight for this. There's some thoughts about how we, you know, like Blaine said, let's see what the Farm Bureau can do. I mean, it's the Farm Bureau that he would do this. So, hello, Farm Bureau, if you're listening about this.
Yeah. So, guys, we're going to kind of wrap this up a little bit. You know, Chris, Adam, I think one of our favorite expressions in the General Assembly is we've seen this movie before, right? We see these commitments made, and we see some of our side go along with these commitments. They say, yeah, okay. And guess what happens? 2-3 years later or less, the carpet gets pulled out from underneath. I mean, it was just a few years ago, 2019, hundreds of millions of dollars worth of tax incentives and things for business. And what was it, a year and a half or less than 2 years later, the governor walked that back. Half of it walked it back. Yeah.
And what
Anybody
was
want
that
to comment
vote?
on that?
What was that vote? Remember that?
Yeah.
That was yeah. I mean, it turned right around. I think it might have been even in the session of that same year.
Yeah. Lynn, any closing thoughts, kind of how you see moving forward here on this situation? What's happening? I know drainage you've talked about it, as drainage districts and things are really important to you. Local control is really, really important to you. What kind of closing thoughts have you got for our viewers tonight about this really important issue?
My closing thought would be that any of that no county board members, no drainage district commissioners, no road commissioners, you've got to get them motivated, as well as your and your other ag organizations, the corn growers. Sometimes they hesitate to move forward enough because they're for various reasons, but they need to be pressed that, hey, this is about our future. I've tried in my time in ag work towards the future, and we need the should be doing more. So should the commissioners. So should the county board. Pressure on. We've got the county boards, but we haven't heard from. They need to keep it up. To the county's boards filed in opposition of this, and we need.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Well, we've got a long road to go and a lot of work to be done, and just people have to remain diligent and watch kind of what's going on. Again, this was passed on a Sunday night out of the Senate during lame duck just a couple of weeks ago. It was sent to the governor today. So let's see if he honors his commitment that he made to Farm Bureau and the other ag leaders, that he wanted this stuff to remain in local county board controls. Let's see if he signs it, see how that goes. Of course, we heard that promise many times earlier in the last 4 years about the mapping situation, the redistricting thing. He wouldn't sign any unfair maps. And Adam, you know what he did, right? He signed an unfair map. So anyhow, yeah. So guys, let's get into the lightning round, speed round here as we close this out. Lynn, thank you for taking time. Let's go to Chris Miller as we close this out tonight.
Well, it's like you said earlier, we've seen this movie before, and we know that they're very predictable, that they're going to, it's the problem we have with one party rule here in Illinois, because they have proven to completely tyrannize the public. And we've watched in real time how they've destroyed safety and security. They've destroyed quality education. They've destroyed economic opportunity. And now they're destroying our one of our greatest resources, our energy independence here, and the ability to have cheap, affordable energy. And they're destroying that too. And it's a travesty what we're seeing going on here in real time. And it's time for the adults in the room to stand up and call it out, because this whole idea has been built on a lie. We aren't having a climate crisis. We aren't going to die because of climate change. And all this baloney is just complete nonsense, that we're destroying our energy independence based on a lie. In sound science, your observation dictates your conclusion. And my observation is that I've watched climate crisis after climate crisis over the past 70 years, and the prophesiers have said how we're all going to die unless we give them billions of dollars, which we've been really good at doing. But the common thread that links all of these things together is none of their predictions have ever happened, and they haven't happened to the past. And guess what? We aren't all going to die because of climate change in the future. The only thing we might do is we might die because we're stupid and we're going along with all this nonsense. It's time for the adults in the room to stand up and say, stop. We need a timeout, recalculating, and maybe make some better decisions as we move forward.
Yeah. Thanks, Chris. That may just be a touch too much truth, logic, and common sense for some folks to hang on to, but that's what we're going to do here, right? We're going to talk about that. Dan Caucus, any closing thoughts or comments?
Thank you very much. Just a quick note, if anyone listening tonight wants to lawsuit, tomorrow, Wednesday, is the last day. Send me a note, Dan@com, name, address, and phone number, and we'll get you on with Jerry Stocks, hopefully Thursday. And thanks again, Lynn, for you guys. It's always great to be together. Look forward to seeing you next week.
Yeah, excellent. Dan@dancalkins.com. Adam Niemerg, close us out there from Dietrich.
Thanks again for tuning in with us here this evening, folks. I know it's been said many times, but this is your conservative North Star right here with the Freedom Caucus. You know, Dan had mentioned coming at all fronts on this gun issue, which we are. We're standing firm on it. And as your North Star on conservatism, we will always do that. So thanks again for tuning in with us here this evening, and we'll give you an update as soon as we know more.
Yeah, excellent. Blaine Wilhauer, the working man, bring your lunch or don't show up because this is going to take a while to get done. Blaine?
Always bringing the lunch here, Brad. You know that. But yeah, I mean, Chris hit on a lot of stuff here. Outside of this just being bad policy on usurping the locals' control, it's just bad policy all the way around. You know, we're passing energy policy and promoting energy policies in this state that are hurting families. I mean, that's the bottom line. Look at your Ameren bills, people, doubled, tripled. All because of this nonsense, and now they're taking this nonsensical, laws that they pass, and they're just bludgeoning it in, by just forcing these locals, imposing their will on their land, on their rights, on everything else. And like Mr. Corzine said, it's time to stand up. It's time to get involved. It's time for your local officials to get involved, because if we keep ceding ground on this stuff, they're just going to keep taking more. That's what happens every single time. So that's why we appreciate you out there tuning in and listening and being involved, being informed, and holding us accountable as well. So thank you and have a good night.
Thank you, gentlemen. And Lynn, I really appreciate you coming on. I appreciate the time you took the other morning on short notice to come over to testify in committee. And Lynn, I look forward to working with you here in the future, as you are now my constituent just in Christian County. You were just outside of my territory until 2 weeks ago. So we're happy to have that Christian County be a part of my new district over there. And so with that, everyone, I'm going to hit the outro video and like and share our content and subscribe and follow. And we appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Good night.